Welcome in. Cheers.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Because we're recording, but this will be released on Thursday.
Yep. I'm Stacey.
I'm Morgan.
And we're back. Do it for the story. It's another week. So like Morgan said, we're winding down Sunday, having a little cozy conversation. How was your weekend?
My weekend was lovely. I did a purge.
Ooh.
And
Purges are great.
I love a purge and I love a rearrange. I got to do both, but the thing, it was like a light. I didn't have to rearrange any furniture. We had all of these books in the basement we have like this kind of just true basement room, concrete floors. And we've had books in boxes in there since, oh my God, 2019.
So when we must read them a lot.
No, well, it was because of our, because of our mold scare. So the books all had to, this is like the last thing. When you move back into your house during the first week of COVID with an infant, and it's just the two of you, it takes a while to truly unpack.
Yeah, it takes a while to unpack for anybody.
But this was...
I'd have burned those. I mean, not burned the books. I had donated them so fast.
No, I just, Donahue, he's an attorney. His father, his sister, they're English majors. The love for books is deep. And so they're back out. They're on the shelves. I have them all throughout the house. And because books are art, right? I mean, it's called cover art for a reason. And so it just brought some warmth. I even have, how we have the bookshelf in the mudroom because it was repurposed to be like a mudroom shelf. So because we couldn't fit all the books. So I even have at the top of the mudroom is a whole line of books. And so then as we go to the little book.
None of them got purged.
The little libraries. No, we're going to give them away as like the little libraries. But those,
smart.
Yeah. Those didn't get purchased. They didn't need to because I really did want to put them up. We had like plenty of bookshelves. Angel's bookshelves.
So
are
you were
full.
deep in your book rearrange.
Deep in my book rearrange, and then threw out all this crap, old shoes, all this stuff.
Because at the end of the day, you realize, especially if you ever look at, which I like to do, even though I get in bidding wars and haven't won anyone yet, like the estate sale sites. Sadly, all of the shit we have in our homes, someday it's just going to be given away.
Oh, totally. And I don't like extra stuff. It's so funny. Like I have one box of, like a Tupperware box of memories stuff, literally one box up in the attic. And I don't know how many Donahue has.
Yeah, we'll save that for another episode because same. But I think that also, at least for me, it was because like living in the city and we're living in apartments and living in studios, and you move and you move and you move. You just keep tired of this shit. Out. And I'll just keep my clothes. That's my collection. That's my memory keeper.
Exactly. That's my memory keeper. My art is my memory keeper.
So the rearrange happened.
Yeah, exactly. So the rearrange happened, and then my best friend, who's actually Elise, you've heard about her a lot, who's been doing a bunch of traveling, back with her husband, so super excited about that. And it was our dear
this weekend, Elise. Great to have you back.
Great to have you back. And our dear friend, sweet Warren. It was his birthday, so we had a dinner party, and it was just a fabulous.
It was a pizza party.
I actually, from
very low key
Friday night until right now, Sunday night, did not leave Eastport, and I'm not mad about it.
I love that. No, I had the same. I was like dying because coming in. This coming weekend is Memorial Day weekend. And Stacey and I are traveling out to California. And
us too.
So
different
locations. So we'll be we'll be away. And I traditionally don't usually like going away Memorial Day.
Same.
Because it's like when I lived in DC, people left the city, so it was like quiet kind of staycation. And it just is nice to have a long weekend of like, get into the summer of do nothing, not do nothing, but be able to do the staycation kind of thing.
Totally.
Do what you want to do.
I love a staycation.
So I got a ton of gardening done. I was in the garden like literally yesterday. It was raining and I was out here.
Joe was in the garden and actually even Friday, like I got some garden stuff done. But we divided and conquered. We because we Airbnb our house when last year we were doing it we were like, let's see what happens. And like, we would even like kick ourselves out of our own house if people like popped on and said they wanted to rent. But this year we were like, let's be more strategic.
Yeah.
Let's do when we're out of town and blah, blah, blah. And so we got hits for both vacations. And so that is my like excuse to purge, is like, gotta get ready for Airbnb.
Yeah, get rid of this stuff. Get it out of here. I know I haven't. Anyway, but yeah, gardening around. And then today I went to a fundraiser walk for my girlfriend. Well, friends, both of them couples. Their son has cystic fibrosis, and there was a walk fundraiser for him. So donate to the cause if you would like. But yeah, so it was a good, chill. I'm tired.
I was going to say,
I did a lot.
Chill in the sense of like,
I did a lot of manual labor.
Exactly. Same. A lot of manual labor. And then it was perfect for when my manual labor needed a break and I had to eat. I was forced to go to friends' houses to eat because otherwise I wouldn't have eaten probably all weekend.
Yeah, same. And I got in a beautiful yoga practice Saturday.
Good for you.
I
didn't know that.
Nice. Yeah, and I actually shout out to Pam at IYKYK, which is actually where...
Oh, my friend Heron.
Yes, teaches yoga for reluctant men. Shout out to you, Heron. I was waiting for you to come in. Because now I know who you are via Morgan. But yeah, that class was coming up next, but I didn't see him in there yet.
I love that.
It was great. It was a great practice. And then here we are.
And
rounding out Sunday on the couch.
Yeah, rounding out Sunday. So
we did get a boat ride in on a Friday.
Oh, good for you. Because even Friday night, we were doing gardening stuff. I was like, I got to get this done before it rains all day. And anyway, and I got to be hunkered down. But anyway, well, I'm glad we both had great weekends. We saw each other. The only night I didn't see was Friday, but it was nice to be locals all weekend.
House bells. Just hit my mic.
Word.
I apologize.
No problem. Don't do it again. But speaking of Sunday, though, and Sunday sessions, so for those that don't listen to Call Her Daddy, which are probably for people that listen to podcasts, or very few people, but Alex Cooper hosts Call Her Daddy.
An amazing interviewer.
She's
freaking great.
Yeah, and, when you think of, she's only 29.
Yeah.
I'm just
girl go.
And we need that.
We need
more intelligence
we need more vocal
vocal at all ages. But anyway, and so she does this thing, Sunday sessions. She typically releases one episode of someone she interviews during the week, and then Sunday is either her talking, just really, kind of like a vent, or just updating on her life or whatever. Or, she'll bring her best friend on, Lauren. And so Lauren was on today's Sunday session. And it was a very serious topic, a very serious conversation. Lauren had recently been diagnosed with PCOS, as well as was told that she has, is it the CHEK2 gene?
Yeah, she basically has a gene that is, you have like 2 sets of the gene, and she only has 1 set, so it's a mutation that, it's a gene that helps protect against breast cancer, and so she's missing that gene. So she has a higher likelihood of getting breast. It was like 68%.
68%. And so when you see 68%, and you're that person that rounds up, which is me, you're thinking, holy fuck, a 70% chance of getting breast cancer. So that's what the episode is really about, is her, like, how she got diagnosed, how she got diagnosed with PCOS, and then how she found out that she does not have this gene, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah.
And then the process that ensues around, her knowing that she now has this gene, and all the mammograms that she'll have to do for the rest of her life. Please listen to the episode, because we're not going to repeat the whole episode, but she ends up saying that she's most likely going to get a mastectomy. And so when I was, listening to the episode when it first started, I immediately, texted Stacey and said, you've got to listen to this episode, because they're talking about PCOS.
Yeah. And oddly enough, too, I should say that we had talked about in the episode that we recorded, the infertility and acne episode, where we talked about, where I talked about my PCOS journey, we mentioned celebrities like Keke Palmer, who has PCOS and was on Alex, but I don't think they talked about it in that interview. I don't remember.
They definitely talked about acne. That's right. I think she might have referenced PCOS, but it was really about the acne in general.
Yeah, it's been a while since this. But we said too, Alex Cooper, who is so open about her struggles with acne and that she'd been on Accutane so many times, and Morgan and I said, like, oh my gosh, it's so hard when we hear that with a younger woman, because we know it's not like things have changed from when I was 20 and being like, oh my God, why do I have this acne? It's like, let me give you a heads up here. You probably have some kind of hormone disorder or probably PCOS or, something like that. Something like right? That. And then so here we had said that. Literally, I think I said even before we were podcasting, just because I seriously will tell anyone who's willing to...
Who wants to receive
me an
that.
Opening. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So someone saying, I have struggled with acne. I'm like, hey, me too. Mm-hmm. Here's what I did, kind of thing. So I did. And I know for sure I'd messaged Keke Palmer back in the day before everyone even knew Keke Palmer is the PCOS. Like she has PCOS. I think... she had posted on Instagram one day, like, oh, she was struggling with it. And I think I shared with her at the time the regimen that was working for me, if you were willing to be medicated. But anyway, Alex Cooper, I'm pretty positive I sent a message to her or like into their show, suggest a topic. And I was like, PCOS. Because
exactly. Damn. And so when I texted Stacey this, I was thinking that, we've referenced it in our episode, exactly what you just said. And then going into it and realizing like, oh my gosh, Lauren almost accidentally got this diagnosis in the sense of she goes to this. Phenomenal is the only way to describe it. Like, I want to know who this doctor is.
Yeah, that was my first thought. Who is this gynecologist?
Yeah, that just, says, oh, let me do this hormone testing on you. She had no complaint. She was literally going in for
her first appointment.
Her yearly appointment.
Yeah, and that's what she said, that she was,
it was just a regular checkup.
She had relocated recently, so she had waited a little while now. It was like, okay, like to figure out who her doctor was going to be. Yeah. And then this was her first appointment. I think
it was a first appointment. It was something like that.
The doctor was like, okay, it's your annual.
Yeah. Have you had
your hormones tested?
And Alex Cooper has the same reaction that we're having now. I've never had my hormones tested.
My jaw dropped because, again, if you listen to that infertility and acne episode, I'm like,
you were begging for that for years, and even told no when you brought it up.
Health, because to get paid, just get the hormones tested your own. But the fact that her doctor said, "Have you gotten a hormone panel?" I was like, I've been begging for that.
Yeah,
and then she says, also, have you had genetic testing?
Genetic testing, which also I was like, what? I've never.
I mean, that really, again, this doctor, it's like,
we need to know who's trained this doctor.
I have so many questions. Yeah, I want to know the age of the doctor, because I want to know, like, again, is this more new, which I'm assuming, honestly, probably younger.
I want to know, I wish I could know if this, where did she learn this? Is it because she has PCOS? Because we've talked to other doctors.
Is it having your journey that maybe they're more just focused on whatever. So many questions about it, but also, if the doctor is asking, have you had your hormones tested? Have you had genetics testing? I think that is something that you have to pay for. It's not like insurance covered.
Sure.
Typically in most situations, like even fertility. But I'm thinking, if you're suggesting hormone testing, and I don't know the genetic side too, that I'm assuming you're going to have covered with insurance in some capacity, right? If the doctor's questioning it, I don't know. She didn't mention it. Lauren didn't say if that was or not covered, but regardless, that's the point. Don't ask me or not give me care because you're assuming you know my insurance plan or my income level. Tell me my options and I will decide for myself. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that she actually had a doctor.
And she had no symptoms, Stacey. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. She wasn't going in there
we've
saying,
heard so many
here for my annual.
Yes. And I think this is the other reason that we want to talk about this too is, one, there's two big reasons for me. That one, we want to help Lauren. Like, I'm like, okay, she's now going through this total roller coaster of like, I have a 70% chance of getting breast cancer.
Yeah.
You know, she's 29, figuring out if she's going to get a mastectomy. Like, all of that is intense. So then, and then having PCOS on top of it. I mean, I know what it's like to have like 10 different health things going on at once. And if someone can, and I've done this for people too, like, who have asked me, oh, you have, how did you get from A to Z? So I'm like, I will do anything for anyone to not have to go through, you know, 50 steps. If I can cut out a bunch of them for you. So that's, you know, our first thing is that we want to help her and like cut down any questions, issues, but also there were our posts that we made on Instagram for the PCOS and fertility, you know, episode that went viral because there are so many women that were commenting of
just people with a uterus. And I say that
people
because,
with a uterus,
yes, that's the right
sure,
term, but also blown away by the amount of people that maybe don't identify as a woman or are identify as a woman and are not in a heterosexual relationship. Because, of course, again, I'll say it, my, you know, hetero privilege is to be thinking when the doctor says, are you in a relationship? And, you know, they ask man or woman, they know that in my chart. So they know I'm in a heterosexual relationship. If you're not, they're not going to ask you the same fertility questions. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of people were getting at. In a lot of the comments, a lot of followers too. And I even, I don't remember their name, but I DM'd back and forth. So I said, oh my gosh, thank you, had reshared the post. And I said, thanks for sharing. And I said, also, thank you for bringing to my attention, because in the reshare, they had put like, anyone for a uterus, this is a really important topic, especially for people in the LGBTQ IA plus community that don't maybe get these questions. And I'm like, and then I was just seeing an overwhelming more people commenting and then even looking at different profiles. So,
well, and I will say, I really appreciated Alex Cooper had the same, you know, her zillennial self of like any person with a uterus. She said the same thing. Yeah. But also, you know, that point exactly, that person that reshared talking about the LGBTQ plus community, and you now, that think about, you know, Lauren and Alex Cooper were sharing, because Alex Cooper alludes to she's got something going on, or, you know, that, and gynecology visits for something specific that she has going on. And, you know, they talk about how intimidating it is to go to these appointments and the doctors are so intimidating. And I'm thinking to myself, this is Alex Cooper, a beautiful, white, privileged woman. And, you know, we've talked about that before, you know, or actually we've got an upcoming episode, how we talk about, you know, my birth story, about how, you know, it can happen to anyone.
Yeah, it's not part of doctor's training. I've had a friend of mine who is a doctor, I've asked, and they literally said it wasn't a part of the training.
What wasn't a part of the training?
To talk about, like, to ask the patient, like, have you ever been sexually assaulted?
Oh, yeah. Well, you skipped ahead for a second. No, you're fine. I was just simply talking about how, can you imagine, like, Alex Cooper is intimidated and Lauren are intimidated. Like, talking about, you know, the transgender person who,
can you imagine trying to find trust in a safe place? And again,
but yes, to your point about, she also brings up the sexual assault.
The DMV, the DC Metro, you know, DC, Maryland, Virginia. And so, I mean, DC is like the capital, obviously, of the U.S., but it's like gay capital too of the U.S. And so you think about doctors, and I've been to different, you know, general practitioners that do advertise, promote that they work with the LGBTQ plus community, because we don't need to explain for them like how all the trials and tribulations, you know, when, again, we're trying to find a safe place. But I'm thinking flyover states, you know, small town, and it doesn't even matter. It's just, again, so that's a whole other thing. But totally anyone with the uterus, like, and the struggle, but the comments too in that Instagram post, our post, it was, I mean, you guys can go ahead and read them yourselves, but, you know, people talking about, you know, wish I knew this or thought of going to advocating for myself in a different way, or knew more about PCOS or knew more about endometriosis before I had my uterus removed, or, I was begging my doctors for this and the other, all these just horror stories. Or I live in the state of Tennessee and, this, that, and the other can't be done, horror stories. And so there's that too, but it really did. It's like you said, I'm like because PCOS is the number one endocrine disorder for women.
Yeah. What is it? 1 in 10?
It's 1 in 10. And I think it's, 1 in 10.
1 in 10 women have, or 1 in 10 people with the uterus have PCOS.
The kicker too is it's like 75%, I think, is the stat that are like undiagnosed, because there's such a slippery.
Say that again, though.
75% are undiagnosed. And I say that too because if you're a woman or a person with a uterus who is like we talked about in the other episode of me feeling the medical gaslighting, like I think I have PCOS, but maybe you have gone through the steps and your doctor has done the tests. The Rotterdam criteria, for which is how kind of the basis for getting diagnosed, is based off of and that's what was interesting too, because Lauren did talk about the check boxes when she talked about, okay, checked that box, which was not having a regular period. It cysts on your ovaries, which again, it's really the follicles that haven't become.
They're not truly cysts.
Yeah. But you're supposed to have 12 or more cysts on the ovaries. So it's supposed to be like pearl-like. And then the third is genetic. If you have a sister or your mom had PCOS. And so that's the Rotterdam for do you have PCOS? But again, I've known other women that think they have PCOS and they're like, I'm dealing with this issue, anxiety, I'm having trouble with facial hair or weight gain, whatever. And they're like, I haven't been diagnosed with it. And so, of course, I've done a hell of a lot more research on it. And again, Lauren's already diagnosed with it, so this isn't as helpful for her, but other people where doctors have said, and integrative medicine too is a path that I personally I think that's my next step.
What is this?
Integrative medicine. So a doctor that typically integrative medicine doctors, they focus more on the whole body. And so they'll take a look at, they will look at your thyroid. They do take more of that whole approach. Mm-hmm. They're not typically covered by insurance, a lot of the practices. So it's pretty expensive. But I've listened to a lot of these different podcasts or interviews or research from these type of doctors as well. And they have really done a deep dive on, or one in particular did a deep dive on the different types. They're like, okay, just because which is one I had to deal with. Oh, you have a regular period. It comes, every 28 days, you're fine. And they're like, no, because you may not be ovulating. And they were just saying how do get the hormone test, do get the panel, but it can go deeper.
Because they're essentially, what you're saying is, I think, layman's terms, is this fair to say? Layman's terms, way to describe it is that there are different types of PCOS.
There's different types. And also I think Lauren is an exception. Literally my jaw was on the ground hearing that her doctor proactively was it's that's ideally what should happen when you go to the gynecologist. It shouldn't just be about sex. Yeah, it shouldn't just be about,
it is crazy.
Do you have STDs? Because, and I hope women understand this, but when you go and you get they call it your well woman visit, right? You go to the gynecologist and you get a pap smear. One, the rules have changed, and so don't quote me on this, but if you have a regular pap smear, you now are told by a doctor you don't have to come back next year, which makes no sense.
Wait. They say you don't have to come back. I thought it was just that you had, because what my doctor said last time, I'm due for one within the next couple months. But last year, I'm fairly positive what she had said was, the year before that, you had a regular pap, so we don't need to retest you. But it wasn't they still sent me the email reminder for your well woman visit.
No, they literally, practice? I have been to the gynecologist and they're like, why are you back?
No.
Yeah, I swear. And so, not to tangent, but I will tell this because.
Wait, so when would you go back?
Exactly. And as a woman, think about it. Men do not get tested. I don't care. Straight men, please DM me. I literally can think of all the men I went on dates with, and I'm talking even guy friends. Sorry, you know who you are. I would ask, when's the last time you've had an STD test? I can say 90% blank stares. I can seriously remember the one guy that was like, I'll go show you the paperwork. I keep all my medical stuff. Like, he was like, oh, no, I do that routinely. Like, I do my yearly physical. Like, was actually a man that goes to the doctor, right? But most dudes don't get an STD test. Same for a woman. If I didn't go to the gynecologist every year, and most women are motivated to go for the well woman only to get their birth control
refilled.
And so when you say you don't have to go for your pap smear, and I remember saying to one doctor, well, you'll see me again, because my insurance did still cover it. That's what's crazy. And I'm like,
then just do it again.
Because the pap smear is about the cells. They're checking your cervix, your uterus to see, if everything's normal. They also will, which is also why tends to happen more often the further you get away from your 20s, that at the gyno, they'll say, do you want to be tested for gonorrhea, chlamydia, and herpes or whatever?
Yes. Yeah.
And so they specifically ask you that.
Yeah.
Because that's a check. Yes, we will do a blood test or whatever. But then the additional one too is, do you want to be tested for HIV? And if you don't go to your well woman, when are you doing that? So I remember saying that to a doctor, like, no, you'll see me again, because that's just me, like, that's a good habit to have. But so fast forward, I only tell this story too, because that was a big part of their, not to reiterate the whole podcast, but also them saying is, do have these checkups. But in 2020, when everybody was scared to go to the doctor and the dentist, all your preventative yearly checkups, I too pushed off going to the gynecologist.
Well, and when you're young and you're healthy and you're like, oh, I have to pay $50 to go to that appointment, or I guess your yearly would be covered. But still,
it's still just, I got to go to this other appointment. My birth control's good. You're not going to, again, you're young. And if you're not seeing that you have a physical symptom of something, you're like,
I was absolutely
good.
that person. I was absolutely that person. I was like, I'm good. I'm healthy. I eat right. I run. I exercise. I never ran, actually. I mean, I ran and then I couldn't run anymore. That should have been my first sign I had a problem. My knees stopped working.
But I'm saying that too, because in 2020, I didn't go to the gynecologist that year, whatever, because of COVID. And then I was like, ooh, I should go. As soon as I was vaccinated, I may not even have been. I was like, I should go have this appointment. I pushed it off last year, and they're like, oh yeah, abnormal pap. I'm like,
so you might not have had
to have precancerous cells removed. Like, literally, they're like, this would 100% become cancer. So had I not gone to that appointment.
No, but you're also saying it wasn't just not going. Was this the appointment they said you didn't have to? Oh, no. You hadn't been tested.
I hadn't been.
So you needed to, I got you.
I needed to go back.
But still, exactly. Your point is
and
go.
I had, and that was, so go. And
well, let's.
So that's the only reason why I say it, because she actually, and especially because the example that she shared, if she had just relocated, like, to Morgan's point, in your 20s, the last thing you're going to prioritize is proactive preventative health. You're going when you're sick.
Yeah.
And
I get it.
It's crazy.
Been there, done that. But I do want to, so like part of this, because I do want to, I feel like I want to talk to Lauren for a second as like, girls on the couch. Like, we would, I know we would hit it off and be friends with them. Like, I can absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want to talk, like, we're a couple years older, and so
seen some things.
Let us help you. And so a big piece of me listening to that episode was like, I've learned so much about PCOS and about women's health from you because of your journey. And even I, as someone who does not have PCOS, but when I heard her say, well, they put me on birth control. I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying that this is wrong, because clearly, like, even the fact that her doctor tested, I'm like, you're in a 1%er, the fact that you're even doing this testing. So does that doctor know something that we don't? But I was curious why the birth control, why the IUD. Again. And, you know, because the piece of this for me is she is 29 and she just moved in with her boyfriend. You know, Alex just got married. I can only imagine that, you know, I could totally see Lauren.
You're on that path.
She's going to get engaged within the next year, most likely. And so I'm just thinking of a couple, the things that are coming to my mind, which as a non-PCOS having, but a sister of a PCOS person.
Sister.
You know,
sister.
Is what was your take on birth control and fertility? And I, you know, like, and I get her situation is very different because she has this whole, you know, non-cancer cancer. It's like, you know, that, but what was your take on that?
Well,
like, what would you tell if you could talk to Lauren? Like, I'm feeling talk to her right now.
I've obviously had so many questions. And again, we already covered the spot where I was like, great, you found an awesome doctor. Stick with her. If she moves, you move. No, I'm kidding. But seriously. My first thought was, and I mentioned this in the episode that we did, the infertility and acne, which is when you get a PCOS diagnosis, especially for most women, that a lot of women get diagnosed when it's like you're trying to have a baby. And so you're focused on like, okay, maybe you're going through IVF and you get the PCOS diagnosis at the same time. So you kind of have to choose a lane to focus on. And the fertility is the one that usually has the time stamp, right? Or the ticking time bomb. So in my situation, that was advice I got from, you know, again, Alara, one of the nurse practitioners that worked with me through that, and also a therapist that was more reproductive health focused. Like, okay, right now we're focused on fertility. So for Lauren, I would say you're doing the right thing as far as you just got two huge health, life-changing pieces of information that I too would be focused on. That 68% having the CHEK2 gene cancer, mutation, right? The cancer. And so it's like, take that in, do that research. But at the same time, because even the episode, it was like, you know, have PCOS. But then, of course, and rightfully so, that's why PCOS took a back seat. But so it's like, do that thing. You did the right thing with focus on, you know, the big C, like focus on cancer first and what you have to do there. And that's definitely, there's a lot there with her family stuff. But then, great, you found this doctor. So hopefully this doctor, I would go back to her and ask in the network, like, okay, what other specialist, especially because the doctor was giving her so much time, what other doctors do you recommend I meet with? What are some other things? Because a lot of what doctors didn't talk to me about, I've never had a doctor talk to me about the nutrition and the food, which is like, the lifestyle is literally like, that is the focus area for PCOS.
And was that through your own research, or was that Alara? How did you find that again?
Own research, and then Alara validated it. I mean, I had one doctor that later said, oh yeah, you know, diet and health, like, you know, you might want to take myoinsitol. Different for everyone, but I think too, because she also, like me, has high testosterone, PCOS, is if you are having the other symptoms like acne or any, you know, hair growth, or, you know, the really oily skin, higher adrenal glands. And also even with that too, I mean, I don't know if it's just with the testosterone high PCOS, but mood swings, you know, you can have different types of PMS and the anxiety. One, I would just also first start to be mindful about it and like use a period tracker or something where you also can use the period tracker, not just because about your period, but like someplace where you can keep notes that are just like about and like calendar, so you can see the like fluctuation of things, because there really are, like, I may not have physical symptoms sometimes in my cycle, but then I'm like, how I'm feeling, how I may start to handle work differently, certain things, how start to build up. I'm like, I go look at my calendar. I'm like, oh, Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing for me is that when we had this, like, our previous fertility and PCOS conversation, the loop, like, that to me was crazy. And that's the stuff that I feel like, especially for Lauren, like, thinking about, I know what it's like to fear for your life. And, I'm thinking of, I got depressed because of everything that was happening to me, physically, and the fear for my life and all of that. But also, it was COVID and there were so many reasons, but like
when Morgan, went through your health.
Yeah. And I'm highlighting that because this would be a big deal if she didn't have PCOS and she got this check to, non-cancer cancer diagnosis. That would be a lot, and that could spiral you, and that, depression and anxiousness. But I want to validate her for, that and that's for, thank God that she, has a therapist and is a big proponent of that. But I think that to me is like the double down of, since her gyno seems so great, what are some of the other things that are potential symptoms? And, I'm not saying for her to load up on all different types of medication, but there are times, especially the closer, I don't know when she's she's said that she's really thinking she's going to get this, mastectomy. And, knowing, like, for me, when I was leading up to, that's when I was increasing, my Lexapro, or that's when I was going
to say, and I don't know if she does, but, then you'll learn too that there's a direct correlation with anxiety and PCOS. Mm-hmm. And then, like you're saying, just the actual loop that you would be on when you get that news. But then that's also
a symptom.
A symptom of PCOS is like self-doubt and being on these loops and kind of like getting into your thoughts too much, which again, I always think that that's just me. That's how my brain operates. But so then to your other question though, about the birth control, again, not a doctor. And I will tell you, I was on birth control for 16 to 34. So like, my whole womanly life.
Yeah, almost 20 years. Yeah, it's crazy.
And a lot of women with PCOS, you're put on birth control. It's just to mask symptoms. It's to give you a regular period. It's to give you a pill that has hormones in it that would help with some of your acne. If you have high testosterone, okay, and you're taking a pill that has more estrogen and progesterone to kind of like level things out for a lot of the physical symptoms. But it's not a cure. It's just a mask. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. Like that's not doing anything. It's temporarily, you're going to help with the physical symptoms. But the other thing that's interesting, again, not a doctor, but if I were her, I would look into one, yes, some people with PCOS can ovulate randomly. You can work on getting your ovulation on track. If you do it's like pretty much you have to have a very intense diet and all the things to be able to start ovulating regularly, typically. But for her, if you have PCOS, you're not ovulating. So being on birth control, especially if she's been put on, she said she was on a birth control pill that didn't work for her and made her gain weight. So I don't know what that was. And we all know there's tons of different pills, right? But there are lots of studies, and you can go do the research on your own, that talk about birth control also having hormones that can be directly linked to breast cancer. Mm-hmm. So when I hear that, okay, you have PCOS, so getting pregnant randomly is probably not
really
going to be happening. Mm-hmm. And to have a Mirena, or to have an IUD, and I started to say Mirena, I don't know which type of IUD she has. And I say which type because there's two types. There's one that has hormones and there's one that's copper that does have less. I don't know if it's like zero hormones or what, but I'm thinking they probably went the copper route. That was recommended to me. That's a whole other topic. And I think we mentioned the other one too, where I'm like, someone that didn't have a baby having to have an IUD that maybe doesn't even need an IUD.
Right.
Oh my fuck. the pain, and they don't even give women like painkillers or anesthesia or anything for that. And there's been so many, go Google it. There's been after we mentioned that, there have been so many news stories about women and their experiences with IUDs. And I, for one, was in an office where the girl next to me had just got an IUD, and I heard the nurses talking about it, saying like, oh my God, another IUD, poor thing. Like, yeah, an IUD. I could hear the girl like crying out. And I'm not like, again, that was someone that hadn't had a child yet. So I hear those things and I'm like, why are we going there? Sure, you hear that she doesn't want to get pregnant yet.
But you're like, but what are the odds of her even getting pregnant?
Yeah, and if she has a gene that she's more likely to get breast cancer, should she be on a birth control that potentially could be giving hormones? So anyway, there's a lot of, I say this because also in women's health, there's a lot of contradicting, and health in general, contradicting information. So you really need to take it a step deeper, because I, for one, no doctor had ever explained to me why birth control was being given to me for, well, it wasn't for the PCOS because none of them diagnosed me for it when I was on birth control. But no doctor ever talked to me when I got on birth control of like, here's all the options. They were just giving me one, writing me a script, and they weren't saying, this one has higher estrogen or this one has higher progesterone. They didn't even ask me about my headache history, so after I was on birth control for a solid 6 to 8 years, because I had a migraine, a general practitioner that I went to at the time, it was actually in college. My campus doctor was like, why are you on this type of birth control if you get migraines with an aura? Like, you're at a higher stroke risk.
I remember you saying that.
So again, like, you have to ask the questions. But yeah, the birth control thing, again, I'm not going to say don't be on it. But with PCOS, I'm like,
it's very confusing.
That's the only good part. If you're not trying to have a kid, it's going to be a lot harder for you.
Right.
To get pregnant.
My other thing is, and not, again, this is like, because she's been so open about it publicly and she's open about her relationship and, being super happy and living with him, that I'm just like, are you, you're 29. Within the next 5 years, you're going to be thinking about having a kid. I'm confused with the IUD and the mastectomy. Yeah,
because an IUD can be, it can be taken out, but it can be in there for 10 years, some of them.
Yeah.
5 to 10.
But it's that, and the, if like what's going to happen hormonally just for her to get her breasts removed.
Right.
And then like, should she be freezing her eggs?
Well, that's
before she's
exactly,
going down
that's
this
where
road.
I was going to go with too, is like,
because I will tell you right now, Lauren, and this is why I'm bringing this up, is again, sorry to cut you off, but before I forget this, is like, we're being so vulnerable right now, but like, I haven't ever said this out loud, but I do wish I had frozen my eggs. I don't even know if wish is the right word, but I don't know if I would even, because I wouldn't be able to carry a baby right now. Like, I would be able to technically if I alter my medication. There would just be a lot of things I would have to do, and a lot of risks I would have to take, and a lot of chances I would have to take. But maybe then if we already had, embryos, or if I had frozen eggs, like maybe we would be like, okay, we'll save up for, a surrogate or something, which also that's like an insane amount of money. So we probably still wouldn't do that. But like, I'm just saying, if you have the money and the means, she's saying she has an expensive therapist, and hell, you're friends with Alex Cooper, who seems like she would do anything for you. Like, what's it like? It's not. It's one more thing to add to the list, but is it something that might be a safety net?
I agree, and I do think that's exactly what I was going to say. Same page is like, if you're making a decision in a couple of years within the next few years to get the mastectomy, I would be thinking again, with hormone changes, that next step would be they did the diagnostic transvaginal ultrasound to see if you have polycystic ovaries, but now you need to have the diagnostics, quote for infertility, so you can see what your follicle count is like and just what your fertility is. Because there could be, outside of just egg reserve, what's your uterus look like, not just from what they, are doing in a pap smear, but go do that. Because, the younger you are, the higher egg reserve. Anyway, the benefit of PCOS is you don't ovulate. You usually have a higher egg reserve, even if you're older. But yeah, I would check that off my list. I would do that next.
And honestly, like that, yes, do that next. And also, if she thinks she's with her forever partner, like make some fucking embryos.
Well, I mean, that's so hard though.
Is it?
I agree that she should, but if you,
I'm just saying embryos are a bigger chance to get a baby.
You're totally right.
Egg. That's all I'm saying is, if this was my friend and I was in a room engaged, and I'm like, dude, do you think you guys are getting engaged? Have this conversation with your boyfriend.
I would actually say, and you're right, it is a higher likelihood that you, obviously, it's an embryo. We're a higher likelihood
baby's already made.
A baby. But that's so tricky too, because you do have to have a lot of conversation, because even if you're married, you are signing paperwork that's like, if I die, does Cease want the embryos? And do I let him have the embryos? Mm-hmm. Who's going to carry embryos? So you have to make all these weird decisions. So it is a thing too, if you break up, like, I don't know.
Totally.
Plus, because I do think for her, I would just focus on just the eggs, because the good news is, she has PCOS.
No, and she's got a lot of eggs.
Yeah, I would think, but just check all that out to make sure there's nothing else going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I would freeze my eggs if you're wanting to have kids at some point, which it sounds like. And I would say this too for all women younger, because like Morgan was saying, freezing your eggs is not cheap. If you do work for a company, one of the few that covers it, definitely flex on that benefit. If you think you want to have kids, definitely use it. But if you are thinking, okay, I'm single and I'm 30 or whatever, 29, 34, still go do the infertility, just so you can get a gauge on what your fertility situation looks like.
Yeah.
To know if you should freeze your eggs or not. But
yeah.
But Lauren, I would say step number 1, just freeze the eggs.
Yeah, because I also just from my experience too of like, you're about to, again, if she does follow through with the mastectomy, you're about to have a major surgery. I don't know what the prep is for that. I don't know what the hormone prep is for that. I don't know what the hormone come down is. I don't know, what the options are for, and this is the thing. This is one thing. This, check to precancer, cancer. But like other shit does come up. And I'm saying this from my experience. I ended up having so many health things happen at one time that sometimes shit luck happens, and you might have like a really fucking bad reaction to, your mastectomy, and it takes you even longer to heal. Yeah. And then you're like just trying to gear up to have like your new boobs put in.
Same when you're ready to have a kid, you don't know.
You just don't know.
And again, this is also, you don't know what job you'll be working in or what the reserve is then, or just, I would think now life would probably be a little less hectic than, I don't know. But I would just check it off the list.
Yeah. Because it's just like, you just never know what other health things come up. And then maybe you're going to be that person that's, sorry to have to think about it, but like you're already here. Maybe you're that person that they're going to be like, we don't really recommend you carrying a kid. But then you've got your frozen eggs, and you have a rich best friend, and she will buy you a fucking surrogate. We know you will, Alex Cooper, for sure.
No, but the other thing with it too, with the PCOS is, and I'm pretty sure too, Alex talked about how she was an athlete, or Lauren was an athlete too. I think they played sports together. Mm-hmm. Is something that I too, as someone that needs exercise too as a coping mechanism for me and for my anxiety and everything else, also as well as feeling good, is you realize some of the exercises or some of the workouts you're doing are really counterintuitive, for PCOS. Like it can actually, especially for those of us that have the higher testosterone, because cortisol, stress hormone, can spike the testosterone, vice versa, or any, doesn't even matter if you have the testosterone, higher testosterone type, right, of PCOS. Any high cortisol spike is bad for the PCOS. It can cause other symptoms to like flare up. So that things that we don't think are stress, our body does. So doing like high intensity interval training or like boot camp style classes are really actually not good. Like leaning into yoga, Pilates, low intensity, you know, walks, weightlifting of like slow movement, that kind of stuff is really beneficial. And for women that have the type of PCOS where it's the more of the weight gain, I've read a lot about women, the, you know, weightlifting piece helping. And just a shout out to, you know, we love Tone It Up, the Tone It Up community, TIU, Karina and Katrina. They've been around for a while now, but they have their app, Tone It Up.
Hot Goss, they did just split up.
I thought that they were not.
Yes, Lindsay confirmed it to me. She saw it somewhere that they're split.
No
Wish each other well.
I thought they were, but yeah, well, loved you, girl.
But they were together for a long time.
A long time. It's like a boy band. It's like when you're a musician.
Like sometimes
time for you to
just
go your own way.
Because they were, what was that, 15 years or something?
Yeah, it's totally a long time. Yeah. But they, so they started off, it was YouTube videos, but now they have an app and they do on-demand fitness videos and also like they have meal plans with it.
Yes.
And honestly, the app I think is $100 for the whole year, and like twice a year they do a discount for like $60. Anyway,
I think I got it for like $50.
But I actually like restarted it recently because it was also around the when I was doing IVF that I wanted to also have some like calmer workouts, and they have categories now in their workouts where not just the pregnancy and postpartum, but they have cycle workouts. So like when you're in your menstrual phase, your luteal phase.
I don't have any hormone issues stuff.
It's awesome.
And it's so, because this is just literally every woman there explaining to you when are the optimal times to work out and what ways.
And what type of ways.
They're not just saying, because this is they're very holistic type of.
Yeah, and it's like
they're not just saying this is when to work out to get your maximum results. They're saying this is when you should be taking care of your body.
Yeah,
this is when you should
body.
be just stretching and doing yoga.
Which is so nice that they're doing the work for you. That like, I've read about that and want to do it, but you know, in the moment, it's another thing you have to decide. Plan.
Yes.
But what's also cool is that they also they have low intensity workouts, so it's easier just to find those. But I think it's also recognizing that it's not just. Yes, it's the food you're eating. You kind of want to eat more like you're a diabetic and also have like lots of fruits and vegetables and all those things. But there's also things you can do with the high testosterone, like drinking mint tea and incorporating flaxseed into your diet can help to naturally lower your testosterone and stuff like that. And like taking myoinsitol is a supplement that like I think every PCOS sister or girly should be on, is what I've read, but that helps too, again, with the insulin resistance and balancing of the hormones. So it's a lot, but also hopefully you get some validation that like other health issues, you can kind of be like, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't insane.
You piece together, I'm not crazy. This is.
Yeah.
But, I think, you know, first and foremost, I'm so sorry that you're going through this, Lauren.
Yeah, and we wish you like so much strength and virtual.
Just like you're talking to two people that have been on like health roller coasters and I'm not going to get emotional, but like health roller coasters that have been very humbling, and I would not wish it on anyone, but I will say I am better for it. And I am not trying to say that this is somebody's plan and like everything happens for a reason. None of that bullshit. But like, I do try and bring the positivity where I can, because in these moments, like you do need it and it's hard. Well, and I do I have a different outlook on life. And if I can take you a couple steps closer to where you'll end up being like 2 years after this happens, is stay present.
Yeah.
And know that you will get through this. There will be moments that will be gut-wrenching, but you have a beautiful friend circle and people that will help you.
Had breast cancer too. So like sad way, you have such a network of understanding.
Special tribe. Yeah.
But the other thing with this too is that like I think the geneticist said to her, or some medical practitioner said to her, this is amazing you have this information.
Yes.
And it really is.
It really
because
is.
just like Morgan was saying, you're 29. She hasn't gotten married yet. She hasn't had kids yet. You know, I'm not going to go into it. It's their lives. But Morgan and I know too many women.
Yeah.
Too many women right now, like 40 and younger, that have breast cancer, had breast cancer. Yeah. And some of them too didn't have BRCA gene. And it's something that we've been seeing in the head. It was just crazy too that this episode of Call Her Daddy got released, because there have been so many headlines recently too. Thank God there's some headlines about it. Maybe we're just seeing the headlines because they're probably, you know, things that we're talking about. And but the rise of breast cancer in younger women. So they're seeing a larger increase of breast cancer in women in the like 30s age group. And when they look at the studies show that's the group where it's growing. It's not the 50 to 60. It's that 30 category. So I'm like, that would have been Lauren's next age group. She's 29. And you know, she could have had a kid and then found out she had cancer right after or before, and then had to do, you know, freezing her eggs in a different type of way, rushing to kind of get it in and get it done. So it is something that, like they said in the episode, it's a reminder to all women, because I had just said the same thing to Morgan, like, I'm bad about checking my breasts.
I am too, because I think it's also, and even, you know, Lauren and Alex talk about this, and literally during the episode, I was like sitting there giving myself a breast exam because I'm like, well, might as well get it done right now. I'm thinking
in the car, listening to the episode, and she dropped top.
I would never in the car let go of the wheel. No, I was purging my books, rearrange. But no, and I was like, so I'm like giving myself a breast exam, but I know that there's a piece of it too, is because I think you, like Lauren, she even said it. My mom had breast cancer, and she's like, I can't believe it. You know, she basically is like, you know, my mom had breast cancer and I wasn't doing the exams. But what I think so often, and this is why, just like Alex Cooper, you know, we're such big proponents of therapy, is because even that, you know, it's triggering. Lauren, it's triggering for me. My mom didn't have breast cancer. Yes, our grandmother did, but our grandmother did in the old, in quotes, old age category, where they say that's not, you know, gene connected.
She was 70.
Yeah. And
70s.
But it's just those things. But I know for me, just my general health issues,
right?
The breast exam is triggering for me to think of it's another thing. And even right now, I just turned 40. It's triggering for me to set up the next gyno appointment and do the mammogram.
You bring up a good thing, because at 40 you get the mammogram, which that's the other part of it that's so messed up, is like, I think, speaking for myself, because I haven't hit 40. And that's the problem. Like a Lauren, who, again, she doesn't have cancer. She has the gene that could put her at a greater risk. But other women that we know that have gotten breast cancer in this younger age group, we're like, oh my gosh, she's so healthy. She's a runner. She's eats so healthy. She's a Whole Foods girl. She's all the things. So it doesn't, you hear that all the time. It doesn't like discriminate, right? But it's that, Lauren, oh my God, I can't get over this gynecologist that actually said, get your hormones tested, and then have you had your genetics tested? And I will say this too, that's something I didn't mention before with PCOS, right? I said, like, ask for the hormone panel, but when you have PCOS and then you want to have a kid and you need help via IVF, they will offer you genetic testing to test your embryos, and you do it genetic testing on the two parents right before. And so Cease and I did do genetic testing, and that was something that insurance did not cover it, but it, to me, and again, I'm saying this from everyone's financial situation is different, but I want to say it was like, at the time, this is probably 2 years ago, no more than $350.
Yeah.
So that can be totally worth it. And, but a caveat to that is genetic testing, it's still testing for the more obvious mutations. There's still many other mutations for a lot of things, so it doesn't catch everything, but it could at least give you a leg up on like.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly.
But tough stuff for
and
Lauren, but thank God she is catching this early, but that's still so hard to make a decision about your body.
And I think, we've got more health episodes to come, but one thing that I think want to, at least as we close out, maybe this is the closer, is just like the reminder of the one marginalized group that we all can come in and out of is the disabled. And let this be a reminder that you never know what tomorrow might bring. And it's, again, like our theme of welcome in, think of others, because tomorrow, it was me, it was Stacey, and today it's Lauren, and tomorrow it could be you. So do your checkups, talk to your friends, be vulnerable.
Yeah, if you can share, especially this too. I loved that, like Lauren said that as soon as she got out of the appointment, she knew she could call Alex kind of thing. That was her person. Like, do share. And if you don't feel like you have that person, man, shoot us a DM. Like, I have literally taken, this is not an exaggeration, I have taken calls with strangers because someone else that we knew in common said, will you please help with this person? Yeah. Because of their health journey. I would help anyone along a journey like this. It's not, it's like, yes, it's exactly, yeah. If no one listens to this episode is to help, yes, it's Lauren, but any one person. And if it's not, PCOS, think of just don't ignore it, especially if you have insurance and if you're getting the gaslighting. Keep pushing, go see someone else. Do see now, that's something too. I think the online care piece, do see if another specialist or someone, if you have that and if you're able to go out of network, do all the things, but just like, don't give up, because you saying, I'm okay, throwing the towel could be 2 years later, you finding out not that you have the gene mutation, but that you have cancer.
So
Anyway,
happy love y'all. Happy Sunday.
If it was uplifting.
Yeah.
No.
But I guess Daddy Gang,
Divas,
spread this. We need Lauren and Alex to see this. Okay.
Yeah, Daddy we want to help.
Let's help. Let's help each other. Help us. Help you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Love y'all.
Divas.